Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Johnson. I'm a psychic medium from jojoempathic.com. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a very sensitive subject, homelessness. So if you are watching this and anything that I say speaks to you, please drop a comment, like, subscribe, support my channel. I am writing a book on homelessness. It's really interesting how it's coming about. It started with my own journey of homelessness. And I think that this is a really good time to talk about it, mainly because we are seeing an epidemic in homelessness across the globe, but specifically here in America. And scientists and people that study the economy are predicting that this will increase. So we're in a serious crisis of homelessness right now. Many people are battling homelessness, and for several reasons, whether it be the economy, that seems to be plummeting, whether it be the increased price of housing that seems to continually increase and go up each and every year, whether it's the increase of natural disasters that we're seeing across the globe completely wipe out people's properties and homes and also way of life. There's numerous things, numerous events and occurrences that are happening right now collectively that are really influencing this epidemic. And I would say, from a spiritual perspective and from what I'm researching, this is affecting a population that is already seriously hurting and struggling emotionally and mentally and physically. We talk about what's happening in America where we don't have free health care and many people are sick and going bankrupt and losing their home and properties due to medical debt. And needless to say, already struggling with a health imbalance and a need for medical care. So we're in a serious crisis. On top of people being very sick, we have an increase of divorce in the country. This is another event that I see from clients that really triggers homelessness, separation of spouses, and then someone's left sleeping in the car or on a bench or has nowhere to go or has to resort to going back home to their family or sleeping on a friend's couch. And so our culture is deeply divided. Our homes are deeply broken. And then there's a storm, literal storm that comes and is destroying homes. And then there's a storm in politics, and that's coming to dismantle the systems that help protect people, specifically marginalized people. And so it's like the perfect storm of situations that just kind of catapult and build on one another. And then we're left stranded as a people, as a culture. And with the rise of AI, scientists are predicting that within 2 years, 99% of the workforce could be deeply affected by AI, meaning there could be a significant increase in unemployment for people that are already in fear, that are already sick, that are already struggling, and now cannot find employment. Now, I've been giving readings since 2021, and I've seen in the past few years an increase of questions sent in about when am I going to find a job? When I've applied to numerous companies, I've got the educational background, I've got the degrees, the certifications, I cannot find work. And I'm seeing this all over America, and I've been seeing it for years now. And I come to you with this message not to bring fear, but to help us prepare as a culture. I'm thinking, what can I do? What can we do together to help ourselves in a time where things are very unpredictable, and what is predictable is low-key dangerous, what's taking place and what's going on. So what can we do? We can talk about it. And we can be compassionate about subjects like homelessness, which are often seen as taboo, people are very hush hush about homelessness. It's very stigmatized. People that are in homelessness are often judged and stereotyped when that may not even be the reality. So today I bring you a different perspective, a spiritual perspective based on research and personal experience of an epidemic that we all are, in a sense, getting into. Many Americans right now may resonate with feeling like this, I don't feel like I'm at home right now. This doesn't feel like my country. And in my book that is not out now, I'm currently writing it and self-publishing it. It's called Jodu Restoration. And I go over the 8 phases of homelessness that I see. Okay, so this is based on my own personal research and experience. And I claim that homelessness doesn't start when we actually don't have a roof over our head. Homelessness starts when you actually do have home security. And that's what I claim. I claim that homelessness can happen to anyone, and especially those that don't feel at home in their heart. The forgotten ones, the misfits, the ones that are able to tap into the multidimensional brain and maybe more naturally, the connected ones, the anointed ones, the ones that struggle to comply to systems that don't work for everyone. This is where homelessness starts. So some things I'll share with you that I feel are really root causes of homelessness that are kind of non-traditional. We usually think of, oh, you're homeless, you must be a drug addict. I think that's the first stereotype or stigma that people will present when someone is homeless and they say, oh, that's their fault. They've done something wrong. They're a drug addict. So the first time I was ever really exposed to homelessness, I was in high school, maybe my sophomore year, so second year into high school, and I had, well, let me backtrack. I had worked in soup kitchens in middle school, volunteered. So that was really the first time that I ever saw homelessness. But then I got educated a bit on homelessness, and I went on a social awareness trip to Camden, New Jersey, in high school sophomore year. And the purpose of the trip was to kind of break the stigma around social awareness and social injustices. And what I found was that it was deeply systemic. This crisis of food insecurity and home insecurity is deeply programmed and planned. For example, in Camden, New Jersey, which was, I believe, home to Campbell's Soup back in the day. And then when that closed, everyone that worked there in the factories, lost jobs, and it became very a place of crime and with a lot of poverty. And this disproportionately affects Black communities. But one of the things that I saw on the trip was a clear discrepancy in the roadways in poor Black neighborhoods versus more affluent, wealthy white neighborhoods. Pavements different. Access to grocery stores was different. Access to fresh foods was systemically programmed and planned differently and disproportionately. And so I don't think many people take that into consideration when we are trying to understand homelessness as a whole, is that it's systemically programmed and disproportionately affects oppressed, marginalized minority people by design. Another thing that the trip helped me with awareness of was listening to stories of different people and hearing, this was the first time I had heard that like an educated person was homeless. And so this was in like early mid 2000s. So there wasn't, I would say, as much of an epidemic as there is now. So we can fast forward to now, and that's very common. You can go to California, New York, bigger cities, and hear numerous stories of people sleeping in their cars that have 4 years, 5 year degrees, 6 year, certificates and college degrees, and they still cannot pay their bills. They have a master's degree in engineering, and they still have to live in a studio in cities because they can't afford anything else. This is more common. And I link the two root causes together is that what we're going through now is systemically programmed. But now it's beginning to affect a larger population of people. We have to understand that homelessness starts in the heart. So let's prepare for, let's say, the AI movement. Let's prepare for, I don't know, maybe perhaps an artificial crisis that targets the financial industry, that would lead the political machines to pushing us towards a digital currency, digital IDs, if you're following me. So let's prepare for this so that we're not as rocked or shocked as a culture as we see more and more home insecurity as part of problems that we are facing collectively. You have to understand that homelessness starts with the lack of a sense of belonging. If you're watching this right now and you have a roof over your head, but you may be struggling with a sense of belonging, feeling like the black sheep in your family is the perfect example. They also call it the truth seeker of your family. Nobody likes the truth seeker. Nobody likes the anointed one either, because their aura irritates people, brings out people's demons, brings out their dark side, forces people to change. I want to claim right now that if you hold on to a prolonged sense of I do not belong, you could very well end up homeless just from that feeling alone. And the belief systems and the self-talk that comes from feeling like you don't belong. This is something you want to prioritize in your life now. Homelessness also starts when you are struggling with abandonment wounds. And this kind of goes hand in hand with rejection wounds. And I'm watching my clock here because I have to get into a reading here and I have to get this message out now. If you are struggling with a sense of abandonment issues or rejection issues, one could claim or argue that you may, and if you're feeling depressed, and sad and confused, one may argue that you are technically feeling homeless in your body, in your heart, in your life. Homelessness starts in the heart. That's where we as spirits find home. If we look around in this material world, it fades, it changes so quickly. You can't really hold much material for too long because it decays. You lose it. It breaks down. You have to replace things. You have to keep things tuned up. So we find a sense of belonging. We find a sense of, I'm not abandoned. I'm not rejected with our connection with our soul and spirit. So the Holy Spirit is within you and all around you. And that's where our true home is. And for those, let's say the anointed ones, sometimes they're called the chosen ones, they often have more of an inclination of remembering that truth. They tend to feel like being on earth just is not home, and really struggle with being authentic and trying to fit into norms they just don't feel are home. A lot of people that end up in homelessness have the access of the multidimensional brain more than the average person. They're more aware. They have more ability to tap into the spiritual realm. Of course, leave it to our education and religious systems that don't properly educate us on these truths or the science behind it, or the proper protection needed and discernment needed, and to even have these abilities, to be able to even access these areas of your brain. And a lot of people say, well, don't do that. Don't access a lot of your higher faculties. And you have to understand that that's how we save ourselves. That's how we deeply think. That's how we problem solve. That's how we see ahead. That's how we plan. We get our motivation. So it's a very good thing to be able to use and have access to consciousness in higher dimensions. But it does require discernment. It does require training. Just as we go through an educational system in life, or we go to church and go to Sunday school, you have to learn and you have to be taught, and that has been stripped from our society and is failing people. If you have gone through a serious amount of abuse or neglect, these are root causes of homelessness. I hope I'm making this more human, especially if you are very quick to judge someone that is homeless or has been. When we're abused and neglected, we often begin to battle feelings of unworthiness. And that also goes hand in hand with feeling like we do not belong. We are tribal beings, and it is essential that we are working with other people, collaborating with others, have a sense of community, have support, give support, and that we're communal. And this is under attack in our society today. And this is a root cause of homelessness. We don't feel that we have a sense of each other. We don't feel that we have someone that has our backs, someone that loves us, someone that cares for us, because we're so divided. And when we're divided, we push our beliefs on other people. Oh, I won't marry him because he's Muslim. Oh, I won't marry her because she's Christian. What have you? And unfortunately, with today's political system, we have blatant racism and Nazi fascism in politics. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that within families, and when there's someone that's standing on that side for safety, we have to divide ourselves. For safety, we have to walk away from our loved ones when we don't really want to. For safety. This is where we're at as a culture. Homelessness affects people that are ostracized, marginalized. It affects underprivileged communities. When there are privileged communities, there tends to be more of that tribal communion, or here's a hand to start a business. Here's a hand to go to college. Here, I'll pay for the financial to get the degree or the certification. Here's a car. I'm not using it. Here's a home. Rest here in the spare room. And this lifts people up and keeps them safe from homelessness. But with our society and economy, there is becoming less and less privileged communities. There is becoming less and less communities in general looking out for one another authentically, without a push or without an agenda. So let's look, that brings me to my next point. Who's helping homelessness? Who's helping people that are on the streets? The number one organization tend to be religious organizations that are out there and helping and volunteering with this population of people. We also see the mental health community working to help with homelessness. But here's the thing. These are two very broken systems. These are two systems that I will claim here today are part of the root cause of the homelessness epidemic. If things are not topsy-turvy, I don't know what else is. The hypocrisy, the division that religion promotes separates man from spirit, separates God from the flesh, and says, there's a man on a throne separate from you. And people are confused. And people give their power away. Then we have the mental health community that has a huge movement to medically restrain people. And if we talk about homelessness and the mental health crises that do come with homelessness or that bridge into homelessness, are discrediting the fact that we are spiritual beings, that we have a multidimensional brain. Completely ignore that. Have a system of treatment, of really just medication. And when I hear countless stories of clients and of testimonies of their therapy, and then they get into readings with me, spiritual development with me, and they say, this is the most progress I've made in my mental health ever. And I've done years of counseling and therapy. This is because nothing hits home more, nothing brings you home more than your soul and your spiritual connection. Hope I'm making sense to someone out there. Drop a comment, let me know your thoughts. And if you want me to keep talking about this subject, again, I'm gonna have to wrap this up because I'm going on a call here. But I want to conclude by saying the people that are helping are really systems that don't work for everyone. But what does work is intuition, your soul, and faith in self, in the higher self, in the God or goddess within you. I also want to bring up that many anointed ones, which is a video that I'll be talking about next year soon, is anointing and how to recognize it in your children and how to support your loved ones in yourself if you have an anointing over your life. When we're brought into homelessness, this is often a lesson. So we could call it karma. A lesson of endurance, a lesson of resilience, and lessons of faith. This is lessons of finding home in the heart. If you're brought into homelessness, you might be brought through the lesson of self-empowerment, the lessons of love and the power of community, and how important it is to have one another. We can't do this alone. If you think about any job on the planet works with or through someone else, the buyer and the seller. We're in this together. And if you're watching this and you're sleeping in your car or hotel, friend's couch, or maybe you're at home and you're not all the way homeless, but you feel homeless in your heart, just know that there are bigger lessons at play that maybe aren't really meeting the eye right now. There's bigger lessons for the collective energy that's bringing us together in unity that we just can't quite see right now. And the healing message and answer for you and for all of us is to develop a sense of spirituality, is to develop a sense of energy awareness, to develop a sense of empowerment, to develop a sense of home in your heart. I'm going to share with you before I get off the call some of the 8 phases that I write about in my book, and you can pre-order it right from my website, jojoempathic.com. First, I'll share 2 archetypal energies that tend to battle homelessness the most: the rebel and the entertainer. And I'll tell you why. So the rebel never, ever wanted to listen to misaligned messages from their parents growing up. They always felt a need to rebel because of feeling repressed or oppressed, to the point of needing to stand out of a line that they felt forced to stand in. So for example, it doesn't even have to be a bad person. It's someone that, like, as a child, and they have this strong rebel archetypal energy, and mom says, "Oh, you've got to go to church. I'm dropping you off." And when the child goes to church, notices, but there's abuse happening with the pastor and children. This is so common. And tries to vocalize this to their parent, that then shames them, punishes them, and forces them to go. These dynamics are what cause homelessness. That child was right. That child did the right thing by standing up and speaking out where he or she didn't feel safe, and yet was still punished, and slowly began to fragment, slowly began to lose their voice, their sense of empowerment to speak the truth and stand up for themselves, to feel a sense of belonging within their family and with some of the most important people as a child, with their parents who are supposed to protect them. Another archetypal energy that influences homelessness is the entertainer. This is a big one, and we hear it all the time of all the actors and actresses that started off on, a friend's couch right before they made it big, and then they get all this money and they still end up on their friend's couch. Why? It's because the entertainer struggles with masking and staying consistent in their one character personality. And so a need for change is crucial. And having change easily available is healthy for this archetype energy. So you could say the entertainer should probably be living a lifestyle that's more nomadic. But in today's society, that's shamed, right? You should go to college, go to church, get married, and buy a house. If not, a lot of people don't really celebrate anyone that goes off in a different directions. I know I wasn't. I was never celebrated for who I am, but I was often shamed for who I'm not. These are the root causes of homelessness. I'll wrap it up here. Jodo Restoration's 8 phases of homelessness. So phase 1, when the root where this starts is when you still have shelter or a home, but you feel out of touch with a sense of home in your heart, body, mind, physical space, or anywhere you go. And I also want to put this in, ladies, drop a comment, let me know if have you ever laid by your man or your partner and you felt still alone? It's an indicator you're not in the right relationship or a healthy one, or one that's being reciprocated, or you might be in a relationship for reasons other than authenticity. This is where homelessness starts, and you've got to change this now. If this phase is not healed and you carry on life wounded, you go to phase 2, then your finances begin to become affected. So phase 1 can start in childhood and usually does. Okay, it's where it gets programmed in children that who they are isn't who they should be. And that's the root of homelessness. Then we get to phase 2. And this tends to happen after we leave the home at 18. There tends to be some sort of financial crisis. And this is stemming from a chronic survival mode and the fight or flight nervous system, and a scarcity mindset. If it's not resolved here at phase 2, we go to phase 3, which is often called like the breaking of the legs phase, okay? In spirituality. So this is where you get a timeout zone. You're in timeout. And spirit will usually have you land on a friend's or family's couch or in their garage or their guest house. Okay, so that's phase 3. You have a chance here to go back to square one and get into a sense of feeling home in your heart from here. Because then we move to phase 4, and spirit will give you some more time to get a grip on this or to heal yourself. So we see on phase 4 of homelessness, repeat situations that get louder and louder. So you'll teeter between phases 1 and 3 in phase 4. We don't get a grip then. We don't find home yet. It may not be divine timing to find home yet. You might not be sent the right soulmates, the right people, places, experiences yet. Because homelessness is on time. It is contracted. We sign on to it before we come to Earth for a purpose. So then we get to phase 5. This is when you're living in a real state of homelessness. So we call this phase 5, living in your vehicle. Then we have phase 6, where you begin to sleep in other places that become more public. This could be office space. This could be the public gym. This could be, the entryway of an apartment complex, okay? You're homeless, and phase 7 is you are out on the street, on a bench, on a sidewalk. This phase, you tend to be outside grocery stores living, hotels. And then we get to phase 8. Phase 8 is homeless shelters and health institutions. And that's by design, that you will be brought there. So homelessness starts in the home. And if we're ever going to change this epidemic, and if we're going to take on a changing culture in AI and technology that's taking jobs, if there's going to be a consistent greed from landlords, if there's going to be a consistent greed by the monopolies that run insurance companies, if there's going to be excessive greed by those that vote in a direction that hurts our farmers, our food gets affected and prices go up. Now we're shifting out of wars on oil to wars now on data. So we are seeing a shift in the things that are tangible versus the things that are unseen, like data. Whereas oil, we can see it. There's a whole process behind it of getting it from the earth and bringing it to the gas stations and us having it, fuel. Okay, so all of this is shifting to where there's data, there's just data centers. All of this, how are we going to survive? And the answer is spirit. And the answer is it starts in the home, within our tribe, within our families, and within yourself. So I'm going to make a part 2 of this video because I need to wrap it up and do a reading. But I also want to say, if you are battling homelessness, I do have a prayer team of trained healers that work with me in prayer. And if you send a prayer request, you can drop it at the bottom of this video, or you can email me jojo@jojoempathic.com. And myself and my prayer team will pray for you. And I also offer, as a philanthropy, free readings and healings to those that are in the phases of, what is that, phase 5 to 8. Now, if you're in phase 1 to 4, you can still save up for a reading because I know it's expensive. But if you're at the point of staying in your car, I do offer free services to you and extend that out. So you would have to set that up via email. So again, it's jojo@jojoempathic.com, and I want to work with you. And again, I'm researching homelessness, this epidemic, and I always love to hear different perspectives and stories because it's going in my book so that we can get out to people to break the stigma that, homeless people are bad people or mentally ill. And I want to make this more human so that we as humans can stand together and help each other because it starts with each other is where homelessness starts. Okay, thank you so much.